go where your best prayers take you. Unclench the fists of your spirit and take it easy. Breathe deeply of the glad air and live one day at a time. Know that you are precious and learn to trust. Amen. Well, good morning to all of you, and if you've been away, welcome back, and we offer prayers for all those traveling today here at the end of spring break. It's good to see you this morning, and just remind you, inside your order of service is a sheet just to remind you of next week, that it is Marathon Sunday, and getting here is a little more difficult, so follow the instructions there. Look on our website. You'll have to navigate the roads just a little bit, and you know, it is more difficult, but you can get here, we'll get here, and have Palm Sunday together, and Jason and the choir have a great Palm Sunday planned for us. So services and everything will be at their normal time, we hope. We'll see. Promises. Promises. What promises have you made throughout your life? Well, there would be so many for most of you that you couldn't recall them all. I know that's true for me. There are so many that I've made that you lose count. What I haven't lost count of, though, as I've grown older, and this is, I don't know what the word is, an unrequited thing in me, are the promises that I've not kept. I remember most of them, if not all of them, which is an interesting phenomenon. And I thought I was a little weird until I started asking the people around me, and lots of people said the same thing. But I only want to note that because I want you to note it and let it go. That's just the way it is. But I want you to focus then. Partly, I think the reason we remember them is because promises are so powerful. They're such a powerful part of who we are. They are deeply a part of our stories. And they are a significant part of the story of Jews and Christians that we hear today. I bet most of you know this story. And some of the younger folks may not know this story. So let me recount it. There was a young aspiring actor, comedian in Hollywood, career not going really well, knocking the doors down to get work and wasn't being very successful, having a hard time feeding his family, but he had great ambition. And he got a gig in Detroit, so he traveled to Detroit for a couple of weeks to do stand-up routine. And one night when he came out of the club late and he was walking back to his hotel, a man stopped him, didn't accost him. He was raising money with awareness. He handed him a pamphlet. Well, I could tell he had a basket for something. It was for the homeless or something. It was a pretty long time ago, pretty significant that he was doing this. Gave him some money, went back to his hotel. Before he went to bed, he just happened to pick up the pamphlet and read it. And it was about a ministry that had something about St. Jude in it, but it was a ministry to the homeless in Detroit. And St. Jude being the patron saint of the homeless and the lost. And it went on to say that the legend is, if you pay attention to this, if you've had a blessing, you give that blessing away and then talk about St. Jude in that formula, and the blessing just abounds itself. And that's the model and formula for St. Jude. Well, interesting enough, he didn't think much about it in the morning. The next morning, picked it up and read it again. Didn't think much about it, went on with his life. Went back to Hollywood, working hard, still not successful. This was an interesting part. He's very faithful, Lebanese Christian, went to church one morning and with his family that he always did on Sundays. And he said this particular morning, he just said a prayer, not a negotiation like we do. God, if you do this, I'll do this. No, it wasn't that. It was just simply, I just really need your help. I need to feed my family. I need to know what the right thing to do is. And if I'm not going to be successful here, drive me on towards something else. If so, help me find the right path here. He said, no joke, after that, his life began to fall in place. He started having more jobs, more gigs, more things happen for him. But it wasn't based on something he had, that he'd made this promise to God. He never took it that way. But a few years go by and he gets more popular, more known. He becomes wealthy. He has influence. And he realized he had this spot in his place, in his heart, of wanting to give back for the great graciousness he had been given. And it just so happened he got hooked up with some doctors who were studying cancer with children. And y'all know who it is. Danny Thomas. And that's where the birth then of this thought of having the Children's Hospital, the St. Jude's Medical Center for Children in Memphis, Tennessee came. A significant place, if not the significant place, for the treatment of children and cancer in America and in the world. And it's touched our family here because one of our children, Braden Coburn, had a very serious tumor, life impacting. And he is now healed and living normally with his family, thank God. Wonderfully sweet young guy in Florida. Promises. The power of promises, even those we're not even aware we've made, we've often made them, haven't we? I bet you can really see that in yourself. I kind of implied one. Danny Thomas wouldn't know it about himself till after it happened, that he'd implied a promise at the time. I want to direct you then to Jeremiah today, which I think is the singular most important passage in the Old Testament for Christians. I do not say that lightly. In fact, I may preach this sermon again with another addition to it later and come back to Jeremiah. It is something that every Christian needs to hear, read, learn, memorize, and digest. Jeremiah, and what is he talking about? The covenant of God, but I want you to drop that word away and pick up the word that it means. The promise of God. The promise that we have in and with God. God's promise in and with us. And to give you a little look at this, last week somebody told me, Tom told me that y'all could be on break. And where is Tom Rasnick? He's gone. Give me a break. You're not on break. You're coming back. All right, you're going to do some work. So get this sheet out. Just a little way for us to do Bible study. And it's going to be brief. But take it up, pin it up, hang on to it, and think about it, if you will, this day. All right, so the first promise that God makes to his people in the Old Testament is at the top of that page. And it ought to tell you what the story is because you get a little thing to give you a little clue. What's the clue? It's a rainbow. So where did the first promise come? It came with Noah. Remember the story? The water floods the earth. We even have a hymn that we sing. And what does God say at the end of that? I will never do this again. I will never punish like this again. Never, ever. And you will be my people. Simply that. A promise that I will always be with you. I will be your God. And so when the people would see a rainbow, they would remember what? God. Powerful image. That covenant goes on for some time, and it gets renewed again. And notice how God works. Doesn't make necessarily just a brand new covenant. Starts with what he had and improves. These are improved covenants. So the next one is at the bottom of the page. And what is that? One of the nebulae from one of the telescopes. 1 billion miles from here, I think. But that promise was made to whom? To Abraham. Remember, he goes and finds Abraham, and where's Abraham living? We know now that it was in modern-day Iraq, Iran. And he goes and says, I know you're old and Sarah's old, but let's what? You've always wanted a baby, you're going to have a baby. Of course, he goes home and tells Sarah. Sarah's 9 years old. She falls out of the tent laughing. Abe, you're senile. Get out of here. We're not having a baby. What happens? They have a baby. You remember the children's story? Okay, I'll get you up to speed. Then they move 3,000 miles, and I'm going to give you the land of milk and honey. And what they give them is a land of rocks and dirt. But anyway, it works out okay. So that's the second, then, renovation. So this promise, though, is what? Do you remember the refrain? Why is the stars? I will make you a father of many nations. Multitude of people. As numerous as the stars in the sky. So you got the rainbow and stars in the sky. But the second addition of this covenant now comes with one more little piece. I will be your God, but you will be my people. Remember the refrain? It's just drilled into you. Chris has it. He can't sleep. He hears it so many times in the Old Testament from seminary. I will be your God. You will be my people. I will be your God. You will be my people. You see, there's responsibility implied. It's not free exactly. It's relational. I accept you, you accept me, and then there's this way that we live to show our acceptance of this relationship. And now we come to today's passage. And today's passage is embodied by the shape of this picture. And what is it? It's a heart. And what does Jeremiah tell us of this covenant? He says it this way: this God of the universe, who is your God, I will be your God, you will be my people, now is going to take symbolically these 10 commandments that were stone and put them inside of you. Get the image. They're out here, now they're in here. They're out here, now they're inside of us. I will be your God, you will be my people. But now it's something deeper. Because the 10 commandments represent what? A way of life. But more importantly, they represent for the Jew God. Nothing less than that. That's why they are so important, why they work so hard to keep the law. They represent God alive. So Jeremiah is saying in a colloquial way, what? This God that is alive is now alive in you. This God is alive in you. God's heart, the very heart of Judaism, is in your heart. God's heart is in your heart. And that's where we arrived this morning. God's heart is in your heart. God's heart is in your heart. You see, the new covenant is a promise, a deep promise that God is with us. And yes, it is Lent, and you heard the collect. We are working on those things that we need to work on. The things that we need to focus on, that need our attention, may need a little correction. We may need a little more discipline in life. But the story ends how? Regardless of where you have been. I am your God, and you are my people. Forgiveness always. You will always have it. You will always be coming back to me. I will always be with you. No doubt. No doubt. That is the heart of Christian theology. That is the center of what we preach or should be preaching that the world needs to hear. You see, maybe one of our takeaways is then in our promises, maybe we can renew them. Maybe we need to renew them more often. It's like a married couple who wants to renew their vows, after many years. That's not a bad thing to do. But remember that at the heart of it, it's to renew the love that brought them together, what they appreciate deeply of each other, that is so easy to lose. It is easy to lose while we are in relationship. God knew it. Noah knew it. Abraham knew it. Jeremiah knows it. And we do too. So maybe we need to renew with those that we love. So you know what time of year it is? It is that tender time of year when lots of our seniors and some of ours are going to hear whether they've been accepted or not to the colleges that they've applied to. And some of you are shaking heads because you're going through it. And I don't know if you're aware of it, but the stakes get higher every year for our young people. This is a tough time. And I hope that I can be more open to how hard it is. And if I can say something to you, that we as a community are more open. We have put so much on this. It is a cautionary tale of this acceptance, rejection. And that's where we find Matt Levine. Last week, midweek, Matt got 3 letters in one morning. And his parents knew what they were. And he came home from school, and his dad came home early for him to open them. And he took them upstairs. Matt lives on Long Island. He has a 4.0. He has played several sports. He has 100 hours of community service. He applied to Yale, Princeton, and Brown. His parents sat with expectation, waiting on some scream or joy or delight. They're in the kitchen, he's in the bedroom, and it's dead quiet, and their hearts fell. Matt came down the stairs, took one look at his mother, and said, "Don't touch me. Don't get near me. Don't hug me. Don't say anything. I need to be by myself." Walked out the door. All the parents, I have your attention now, don't you? You've been there? And you hope they're going to be okay till they come back? As it like no joke? Deep rejection. He did come back, 10 o'clock, went straight upstairs and said, don't leave, just let me alone. I'm okay. I've talked it with some buddies. I'm going to be okay. And they had to live with that. Next morning, Mom and Dad were up about 4 o'clock with a cup of coffee. Matt comes down early, like an hour early for school. And they're going looking at each other, and they look up, and he's got a Lehigh College jersey on and a smile on his face. And they're going, "Are you okay?" He says, "I'm great. I'm going to Lehigh. I'm going to love it there." He says, "I see you. I made an early appointment." He's out the door. Do you know why he smiled? Because he reread this letter. This letter that his parents wrote him on the Monday before he got the letters from those 3 schools. I want you to hear it, word for word. So I'm sorry I'm reading, but just listen. "Dear Matt, in this week before you receive your college responses, we wanted to let you know that we cannot be any prouder of you than we are today. Whether you get accepted or not, it doesn't change the wonderful person you have become. We will celebrate with joy whatever and wherever you go and get accepted, because the happier you are, the happier we are. We will celebrate. And it doesn't diminish you as a person, a student, or as a son. You are not influenced by what these colleges have decided. If it goes not your way, you will take a different route to get what you want. We know that. There's not a single college in this country that would not be lucky to have you. We love you as deep as the ocean, as high as the sky, all the way around the world and back again, and to wherever you are headed. Love, Mom and Dad." You see, Jeremiah is trying to say to us in our journey, even in the midst of Lent, that requires us to do some work. I love you as deep as the ocean, as high as the sky, and all the way around the world and again. Renews that regardless of what we've done, where we've been, how we've been, we're always home, accepted back into His heart. It is God's heart in our hearts. And I wonder if today, maybe this week, we are reminded to reconnect, to renew with those that we have made a promise, with those that we have loved and do love, and to remind them too that they are always in us. We are always in them. Amen.